The alarm sounds. You open your eyes. And before your feet touch the floor, it is already there. The weight. The tightness. The nameless dread that today will demand more than you have to give. You check your phone hoping for distraction, but the notifications only confirm what you feel. The world is waiting. The problems are queued. The person you must become today seems impossible to reach from who you are right now. So you delay? You scroll. You lie still, negotiating with time, hoping that 5 more minutes will somehow transform your capacity. But the dread remains. It grows. It becomes the background of your entire day before the day has even begun. This is not unique to you. This is the human condition in the modern age. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote about this exact experience nearly 2,000 years ago. He described the morning struggle to rise, the temptation to stay in bed, the whisper of comfort that says today can wait. And he described something else. A practice. A specific, deliberate check that transformed the dread into direction. The Stoic morning check. Not a routine in the modern sense. Not a series of habits designed for productivity or optimization. But a philosophical examination. A confrontation with reality before reality confronts you. And in this confrontation, the dread dissolves. Not because the day becomes easier, but because you become ready. The suspense begins here. Because the morning check is not what you expect. It is not positive affirmations. It is not gratitude lists. It is not visualization of success or recitation of goals. These are modern inventions, useful perhaps, but ultimately fragile. They depend on feeling, on energy, on the very resources that dread depletes. The Stoic morning check is different. It is designed specifically for the moment when you have nothing, when energy is absent, when motivation is a myth, when the only thing available is the bare fact of your existence and the demands of the day ahead. It works precisely because it does not require you to feel good. It requires only that you think clearly. The first element of the check is the morning assent. Before you rise, before you move, before you engage with the world in any way, you make a specific agreement with yourself. Today I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are this way because they do not know good from evil. But I, who know the good, am damaged if I allow myself to be provoked by them. I cannot be harmed by anyone who does not force me to do wrong. This is the opening move. Not optimism. Not hope. Realistic expectation. The acknowledgement that difficulty is coming. And the preemptive decision about how you will meet it. This seems counterintuitive. Should we not begin with positivity? With energy? With the belief that today will be good? The Stoics understood that such beginnings are vulnerable. They collapse at the first obstacle. The person who expects a smooth day is devastated by traffic. The person who expects kindness is destroyed by rudeness. The person who expects ease is broken by effort. But the person who expects difficulty, who has already accepted it, who has decided in advance how they will respond, is immune to surprise. And surprise is the trigger of dread. The unknown. The unexpected. The violation of expectation. The morning assent removes the unknown. It names the difficulties before they arrive. And in naming them, it defangs them. The neuroscience of anxiety confirms this ancient practice. Anxiety is not caused by negative thoughts. It is caused by unexamined negative thoughts. When you deliberately imagine the worst case, you engage the prefrontal cortex, the rational brain, which regulates the amygdala, the fear center. You reduce the emotional charge through habituation. You prepare contingency plans that increase actual competence. And most importantly, you transform vague dread into specific scenarios. Vague dread is paralyzing because it cannot be addressed. Specific scenarios can be addressed. They can be planned for. They can be survived. The morning assent is cognitive behavioral therapy delivered in a single paragraph by a Roman emperor. The second element of the check is the body alignment. Marcus Aurelius was not a disembodied mind. He was a soldier, a commander, a man who understood that the state of the body determines the state of the mind. The morning check includes physical practices. Cold water on the face to activate the dive reflex and reduce inflammation. Deep breathing to regulate the autonomic nervous system. Simple movements to increase blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. These are not elaborate exercises. They are precise interventions. They signal to the body that the night is over, that vigilance is required, that the day has begun and you are ready to meet it. Modern psychophysiology has mapped these connections in extraordinary detail. The vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem through your heart and gut, is the physical infrastructure of emotional regulation. Cold exposure activates it. Deep breathing stimulates it. Movement increases vagal tone, which is literally the physical capacity for calm under pressure. When you perform these simple actions, you are not just waking up. You are optimizing your physiology for the mental demands ahead. You are creating the biological conditions for clarity. And clarity is the enemy of dread. Dread thrives in fog, in confusion, in the half-awake state where emotion rules and reason sleeps. The body alignment dispels the fog. The third element of the check is the intention declaration. Not goals. Not to-do lists. Intention. The difference is subtle and profound. A goal is an outcome you want to achieve. An intention is a way of being you want to embody. Marcus Aurelius did not write, "Today I will conquer the Germanic tribes." He wrote, "Today I will practice patience, courage, justice, and self-control." The tribes were external. The practice was internal. The tribes were uncertain. The practice was guaranteed. This is the Stoic distinction between what is in our power and what is not, applied to the architecture of a single day. The power of intention is that it creates wins every hour. Did I practice patience in that difficult conversation? That is a win. Did I act with courage when I wanted to retreat? That is a win. Did I choose justice over convenience? That is a win. The wins are available constantly. The momentum builds continuously. And momentum is the antidote to dread. Dread is the feeling of being stuck, of facing an insurmountable mass, of not knowing where to begin. Intention breaks the mass into moments, into choices, into practices that are always available regardless of circumstance. You cannot control the day, but you can control how you meet it. And that is enough. The fourth element of the check is the gratitude interrogation. Not the shallow gratitude of listing nice things. The rigorous gratitude of asking specific questions. What am I taking for granted that I would desperately miss if it were gone? What did I yesterday that I am now free from? What is available to me today that was not available to my ancestors, to most people alive right now, to me just a few years ago? Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly despite his wealth and power. He reminded himself that he could lose everything in an instant. That his health was temporary. That his position was precarious. That his loved ones were mortal. This seems morbid to the modern mind. Why begin the day with thoughts of loss? Because the practice of negative visualization, of imagining loss before it occurs, does not create anxiety, as we might expect. It actually reduces baseline anxiety and increases felt gratitude. When you imagine losing your home, your current home feels more precious. When you imagine losing your health, your current body feels more capable. When you imagine losing your loved ones, your current relationships feel more urgent. This is the hedonic reset. Our brains adapt quickly to positive circumstances and begin to treat them as baseline. Gratitude interrogation interrupts this adaptation. It restores the vividness of experience. It makes the ordinary feel extraordinary again. And in this restoration, dread is replaced by appreciation. The fifth element of the check is the cosmic perspective. Marcus Aurelius would conclude his morning practice by zooming out. Way out. He would imagine himself from above, looking down on his palace, his city, his empire, the Mediterranean, the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy. He would remind himself of his smallness, of the brevity of his life, of the vastness of time before and after him. This was not to induce despair. It was to induce proportion. The problems that felt enormous from ground level felt manageable from cosmic height. The insults that stung, the setbacks that crushed, the ambitions that obsessed, all shrank to their proper size. Modern research on what psychologists call the overview effect confirms this experience. Astronauts who see Earth from space report permanent shifts in perspective. Their personal concerns diminish. Their sense of connection expands. Marcus Aurelius achieved this without leaving his bedroom. Through imagination, through disciplined perspective taking, he accessed the same psychological benefit. And you can too. Every morning. In 30 seconds. By simply imagining your place in the larger scheme. This is not escape. It is context. It is the recognition that your dread, however real, however pressing, is temporary. That you have survived worse. That you will survive this. That the sun will rise tomorrow regardless of today's outcome. Together, these 5 elements form the Stoic morning check. The assent. The alignment. The intention. The gratitude. The perspective. Each addresses a different source of dread. The assent removes surprise. The alignment optimizes physiology. The intention creates momentum. The gratitude restores vividness. The perspective induces proportion. And together, they create what the Stoics called eudaimonia. Not happiness as we understand it. Not pleasure. Not the absence of difficulty. But flourishing. The state of being fully engaged with life, fully capable of meeting it, fully present to its demands and its gifts. The suspense resolves in practice. Because the morning check is not a theory. It is a tool. It is available to you tomorrow morning. It requires no special equipment. No subscription. No guru. Only the willingness to think clearly before you act. To examine your expectations before the world examines them for you. To decide who you will be before circumstances decide for you. This is the Stoic promise. Not that you will become superhuman, but that you will become fully human. Capable of dread and capable of moving through it. Capable of difficulty and capable of meeting it. Capable of life and capable of living it. The modern world complicates this practice. Never before have mornings been so assaulted. The phone is a portal to infinite demand. The news is a flood of catastrophe. The notifications are a chorus of urgency. All of this before you have completed the check. Before you have established your footing. The Stoic response is not asceticism. Not complete withdrawal. But boundary. The recognition that these inputs are externals. Not in your power. Not your concern. You can engage with them or not. But you do not need them. You do not depend on them. You do not allow them to determine your morning state. The specific practice is simple. The phone stays outside the bedroom. Or it stays off for the first 30 minutes. Or it stays in airplane mode until the check is complete. This is not weakness. This is strategy. The recognition that willpower is limited and environment is powerful. That the best way to win is not to fight unnecessary battles. That the morning is a fortress to be protected, not a resource to be spent. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the first thing you must do when you wake is remind yourself of the work you have to do. Not the work the world has for you. The work you have chosen. The practice you have committed to. The person you are becoming. The transformation is gradual. You will not wake up tomorrow without dread. But you will wake up tomorrow with a tool. A practice. A way of meeting the dread that reduces its power. And over time, with repetition, with consistency, with the willingness to begin again each morning, the dread diminishes. Not because life becomes easier. Because you become stronger. Because the check becomes habit. Because the practice becomes identity. Because you become someone who wakes up ready. Someone who meets the day with clarity and purpose. Someone who rises as a Stoic. If this resonated, subscribe. This channel exists to bridge ancient wisdom with modern practice. To build unshakable minds for an unstable world. To help you wake up without dread and meet each day as it comes. Next week, we explore the Stoic Evening Review. The practice that ends each day with peace and prepares you to begin again. Rise as a Stoic.